Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes. I am your host, Mike Catron, and we are presented by #basketball.com. Joining me again, as always, is my co-host Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler? How you doing?
Not much, Mike. I'm doing pretty well. How are you, man?
I'm doing pretty great. The season is coming along. I've decided to not watch any Bulls games and let their playoff fate to the basketball gods. I just don't care. So I'm feeling much better than I have been so far this bowl season.
Come on. You got to watch the great Rajon Rondo and Michael Carter Williams show.
I'm going to pretend those people don't exist. I actually obviously have not pretended that they don't exist because I sent out a tweet earlier today stating that Etuan Moore is shooting, I believe, 38% from behind the 3-point line, and he's $8 million a year and for 4 years, and Rondo is $14 million a year for 2 years. And Michael Carter Williams is shooting 22% from behind the arc, and Tony Snell is shooting 41% from behind the arc. So if the Bulls literally did nothing, they would be better than they are right now. Oh, let's not mention that Cam Payne is going to the D League. So we traded one starter, one rotation player, and a second-round pick for some reason for a guy who's in the D League and two other guys who probably can't even play on that D League team. They are terrible.
Yeah. I would say Cam Payne has definitely been a big disappointment, hasn't he?
An utter disappointment. And that is why I am not paying attention to this Bulls season any longer. If they make the playoffs, great. If they don't, also great. Better draft pick.
Well, they're not going to get the Kings one, unfortunately, so it wasn't all good.
No. The Kings really did the math and decided to just completely, utterly tank and get rid of Boogie. Their only chance of basically giving us their pick. They realized they could not do that. So good for them, I guess.
I think too that they are, even with the roster they have. When it seems like when they can win a game, they cut their own knees off by just putting in someone dumb or playing some crazy rotation that they've never played before all season. And
yeah, you are up in their business. You are following them pretty steadily, and if you would like to write a thesis on how to tank, I think you would write it about the Sacramento Kings team. They tanked even though they were not that long ago, kind of in a playoff hunt.
When they made that DeMarcus Cousins trade, they were 2 games out of the 8th spot.
That's absolutely amazing. They were in a playoff hunt, and they go, "No, let's try to be the worst team in the league."
Well, with the way this draft is, I'm by no means like a huge draft Nick or draft expert, but you hear everyone talk about so much talent in this draft, and I think they couldn't risk losing that pick. Especially with that roster the way it is. They had Cousins at the time, but they didn't really have much around Cousins. So one player does not make a team.
That is very true. Though they were doing that without Rudy Gay, so
yeah, and obviously Gay had the Achilles, which unfortunately that's a lot of times you don't come all the way back from that, which is just disappointing.
It is sad. I always thought Rudy Gay is an underrated player, both fantasy and in real life. And Rudy Gay could have been my savior this year by leading the Sacramento Kings into not in the bottom 10. And then I'd be like, you know what, Rudy Gay, you are a true Chicago Bull hero. They would retire his jersey. And under it would be like the Sacramento's 11th pick would be under it'd be like the number 11 instead of his real number.
That's funny.
That would have been great. That would have been a great way to end this terrible Bull season. But let's get right into it and sadly talk about the downfall of the Bulls. Dwayne Wade out for the rest of the season, fracture in one of his elbows. He's going to be out till next year. How has this affected a lot of people in the playoff run, but a lot more people, I would hope, are in a roto off into the end of the year. I'm going to call it a roto off. We've seen
Is that a technical term?
I believe that is the official term for the end of the year. We've seen an increase in minutes for Rajon Rondo. Great. We've seen an increase in minutes for Denzel Valentine, who I do like, just in real life, not so much in fantasy. And we have seen not really an increase in minutes, but a lot more steady playing time because, Nikolai Mirotic, for some reason, didn't play for 2 games and then was off the roster for no reason whatsoever. If they are doing a stealth tank, they're doing a worse job of it than even the Kings. Like, what is that? I can't explain what is happening in Chicago at all. But all these guys are playing more minutes. Are any of them benefiting from the absence of Dwayne Wade?
I think that maybe Fred Hoiberg can't understand Mirotic when he talks, and he just really hates that. And so, therefore, he just doesn't want to play him.
You think he's xenophobic? You think Fred Hoiberg is probably a xenophobe?
Yeah, because
I can believe that. He was in Iowa for a while.
I mean, Mirotic is the second best player they have now?
He has to be.
And he gets games where he doesn't play at all, and then games like tonight where he played 17 minutes.
Yep. I mean, that's the problem. He should have been the complete benefactor of the Taj Gibson trade. And instead, he wasn't. He did move into the starting lineup. They put Bobby Portis in the starting lineup. And then Dwayne Wayne got hurt, and you're like, okay, well, he'll get more playing time because they need somebody who can score on this team. He's still super questionable. Had randomly started tonight, but only played 17 minutes.
So, I mean, do I want that in fantasy? I guess I don't. I mean, I do if he's going to get big minutes, but if he's not,
I mean, is he worth streaming in the playoffs?
Oh, he's worth streaming, I think. But I can't hold this guy just because I don't know what minutes he's going to get. I mean, it's like a Sacramento situation in the fact that I have no idea who's going to play and when and where and why and how. And I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Still an absolute crapshoot. It looks like Bobby Portis played 30 minutes tonight and had 22 points. So Fred going with the hot hand. But guess what, Fred? You're not a good enough coach to go with the hot hand. So definitely.
Oh, no.
I don't know. I would stay away from these guys. I would stay away from these guys.
Don't you realize Bobby Portis?
Bobby Portis can't play defense.
Bobby Portis gives him his crazy eyes, and Fred's afraid. So Fred's just like, you're in, Bobby. Go ahead.
That is probably why he puts him in. What about Rondo? Do you think I don't think he's anything but what he's been all year. So if that's doing it for you, I guess keep on keeping on with Rondo. But even in a standard league, I don't want to deal with his percentages.
Rondo's 31 years old now. There's no new tricks in that bag.
No, not at all.
It's shallow assists and not a lot else.
Yeah, I don't see a huge boost for anybody on the Bulls. Unless Nico gets consistent minutes, which we have not.
Here's the best question for me. The last 3-4 years, Dwayne Wade has been probably a steal in a lot of drafts, especially redraft leagues, because no one wants to pick him because he's old and his knees are bad. Is it finally going to be time next year to jump off the Wade bandwagon?
Yeah, I don't know. If he re-ups, so this injury, I don't know if it's a terrible thing or a great thing. If he stays in Chicago and eats up our cap space and is terrible, it's going to look even worse for this front office to watch Dwayne Wade deteriorate in front of our eyes on the Chicago Bulls team while making $23 million. On the other hand, his injury is an elbow injury. And he, like you said, he's always kind of a steal because everybody's afraid of his injuries. And he didn't disappoint this year. He played fairly well. I don't know why he wouldn't be able to run that same thing back next year. It might be a little bit less. But if he stays in Chicago, Chicago's got nobody on that team. So why would he not see the exact same playing time, the exact same minutes And we kind of talked about this. So throwing it out there, we did do an AMA on the subreddit Fantasy B-Ball earlier today. And we're going to get to some of those questions. And this one actually kind of overlaps into one of the questions from that AMA. It's about injuries. And it's basically, the question was, do you take injuries into account when you're drafting? So I'll let you field that one first.
So do I take injuries account when I'm drafting?
Yeah.
Current injuries, yes. Injury history, only if you've had the same injury. For example, like if you've injured your knee 3 times, I'm thinking that's worse than I broke my hand, I hurt my knee, and I broke my toe.
Yeah.
But
Much
I mean,
worse.
it's very much a case by case thing. Obviously, like if you're hurt right now, I'm looking at that and thinking to myself, like, okay, when are you going to be back? So for next year's draft, you'll have, the torn ACL guys, Zach Levine, Jabari Parker, guys like that. That you'll have to be cognizant of what stage of their recovery they're in as you're making your draft. But other than that, not really. I mean,
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I do pay attention to chronic injury guys, especially if they've burned me at least 3 times. I'm looking at you, Bradley Beal and Brooke Lopez. I'm looking at you too. And Brooke Lopez had a perfectly good couple of years actually last year and this year, but I won't draft him. And you know what? I am gonna miss out on that. But after you get burnt by somebody who has a chronic injury, or is
and
at least injury prone.
Should we talk about Brooke Lopez?
Yeah, let's get right into it.
And in this point, so Brooke Lopez obviously was hurt there for, like 3 years in a row. He hurt his foot, and he had the same injury every time. Basically, the surgery they did the last time in 2013, 2014, when he only played 17 games, it was an all or nothing procedure, from what I understand. It was either this fixes your foot and you can play basketball again, or you hurt your foot again and you don't play anymore. And it's been 3 years and he's been pretty darn healthy. So I'm thinking he's good to go.
Yeah, I think he's one of the rare occurrences where he turned it around from his injury. And that is because of the nature of this surgery that he did. And I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's still playing. I'm glad he is still contributing to a pointless Nets team. But I wish they would have traded him 2 years ago. That wouldn't have made a lot of sense to trade him after he came back and played really, really well. Wouldn't have made sense to immediately get rid of him. No, of course not. At least the Bulls aren't the Nets, I guess.
And even after last season, last season he played even better than the first season, and he had 2 years in a row where he was healthy, and you would think someone would have snatched him up at a high price, but they just never made the move.
Yeah, and I still avoid him because I'm still worried about it. Because if he does injure it, he'll be out of the league. But I still avoid guys like that because they screwed me over numerous times. But other than that, I don't go into a draft expecting someone to get injured during the year. Like Rudy Gay, I'll draft him even though I know he's older. Or like Dwayne Wade, I wouldn't go into the year expecting him to be injured. I would expect him to maybe miss 15, 20 games due to various restings and minor injuries. But I'm not expecting him to miss like half the season going into any draft.
Yeah, and then and this isn't the best example, but you get guys like Damian Lillard who had played every game for his first 3 years. Then last year, there was finally a chink in the armor and he missed a little bit of time. And I had people being like, "Oh, Lillard got hurt last year. I'm not picking him." And it's like, he's missed 7 games in his entire career.
Yeah, you can't just because you got hurt probably during your playoffs and you're bitter about it. That doesn't mean he's a bad asset all of a sudden.
And you can't let last year cloud your judgment. I think we do that a lot in fantasy. We're too hung up on last year. Oh, this guy was terrible last year. Well, if he was good, go ahead.
Look at how far AD slipped in a lot of drafts. And that's because of both his last year performance, his injury, and he has had this chronic I miss 20 games a year. But guess what? he's dominating fantasy basketball. And you have KD, who is out at this late injury, and people will remember come draft time. Well, KD got injured last year. I don't know if he's gonna stay healthy this year. That's a dumb idea to avoid either one of those guys.
Yeah, I'm with you. Anthony Davis is probably going to set a career high in games this year. He's got to play 2 more. And
I think he's got it.
And if we remember, there was guys like Steph Curry. Steph Curry got hurt every year when he was a young player.
Yeah, he had that really bad year. Of course, he was a keeper, my keeper that year. That was really depressing. And yeah, he's amazing and had one of the best fantasy seasons of all time last year.
So I guess my point is I'm drafting the best player, and anyone can get hurt at any time. So you can't let that worry you too much, unless, like I said, it's something where this guy's broken his leg 10 times. Well, then obviously something's wrong with him. But other than that,
yeah. I'm looking at you, Bradley Beal. I'm looking at you. I'm watching you. You're not tricking me. You're not fooling me this year. Healthy and playing well. Not drafting Brad Beal next year.
Brad Beal was on my list this year of guys I bumped just down my board a little bit. I was a little bit scared of because of injury, but he was one of about 3 guys.
I think that's actually the real way to do it. That's the real strategy. So we're saying, like, I'm going to avoid Brook Lopez and Bradley Beal. I'm not going to not draft those guys if they're hanging around in the 8th round, Both of those guys are draftable. But I would rather get them on a severe discount based on their history. I'm not going to ignore them for the entire draft.
Here's a question that maybe goes along with this. Is there ever a player that you cross off your draft list before the draft for any reason whatsoever?
No.
Yeah, and that's kind of how you got to
There are guys that I know will be overvalued, who I know will either someone's going to pay too much for him, or someone's going to reach for him like 2 rounds too early. And I just almost automatically check in, like, I'm not going to get this guy because I don't want to overpay for somebody. And this goes to one of our other questions. So that last question from Capranu, probably saying that wrong. Thank you for the question. This kind of goes into another question, though. Would you reach? So this is kind of a specific question. Would you reach for players that another guy in your league covets? So, like, this guy loves LeBron. Would you reach for LeBron so you can trade him LeBron and get more players back for him?
This question, in a lot of ways, didn't make any sense to me. If you're picking before the guy who loves LeBron, who are you going to get from him? You're going to get the guy that you picked, right? Like, you could have just picked yourself.
And that's how I felt about it as well. If you're reaching for him higher than that guy who loves LeBron is reaching for him, then you could have gotten someone much better.
Right. You could have just drafted the player you wanted, and you wouldn't have to trade with this guy for LeBron.
Yeah, and LeBron's a 2nd round pick, so you're picking him either in the 1st round, or like maybe if you get a late 1st round, early 2nd, you take him in the late 1st, or you take him in the early 2nd. So maybe in that case, if you get him in the early 2nd, which is where his value is, you could package that out. But that's not a reach. That's not reaching for LeBron. I don't want to overdraft ever. I don't want to overpay ever. I unless I really think I'm on to a potential breakout guy, I'm not reaching more than a round above a value.
Oh, I'm totally with you there. And I'll make this point that I kind of tried to make in the subreddit too. It happens a lot with players who slip. I use Dwayne Wade in that example because it happens a lot with Dwayne Wade. ESPN ranks him as like a 5th round pick, and no one picks him till the 8th or 9th round, and you're going, ooh, I'll pick Dwayne Wade and I'll trade him. Well, who's going to buy him? Everybody else passed on him.
If no one drafted him, yeah.
Right? So, you're not really going to trade him to anyone. Like, if you're picking Dwayne Wade at that point, it means you're probably owning Dwayne Wade the whole season, which is okay because Dwayne Wade is maybe a value at that point. But you're not going to pick him to trade him because nobody else wants him.
Yeah, that's a great point. If he drafted that low, or if he got drafted that low, there's a reason he got drafted that low. Nobody values him.
Right. And so at some point you're picking a player that is just yours. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But you got to be ready to do that, right?
I think there's a lot of players like that where you get them and you go, I know I can't get anything for this guy, so I guess he's just going to sit on my team. But if he's bringing value to your team, then who cares if you can't get something out of him?
I like to make this analogy sometimes, okay? Nothing against people who do. I personally don't eat McDonald's, but if the stock drops to $1 a share tomorrow, I'm gonna buy all the shares.
Yeah,
I don't love McDonald's, but sometimes the price is just right.
Exactly, but it's not like you're gonna hoard a bunch of Big Macs and then sell them for a $20 profit each. You know what I mean? Right. Just because that's a tasty investment, and that might be a worse metaphor than your metaphor, but like for instance, this year Steven Adams had this incredible month. But if you're in an experienced league and you try to shop Steven Adams, you're not going to get someone ranked around Steven Adams' good month, because they all know, well, Steven Adams had a great month, isn't that type of player. So he's obviously going to drop back down. They know when you're trying to sell high. So
no doubt.
That's the obviously the motto of all fantasy basketball is buy low and sell high. When you're in an experienced league, selling high is so obvious, people will not do it.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's so hard to get, I mean, people in experienced leagues, in my opinion, get stuck into the preseason values, and no one wants to buy anything other than kind of where they were at in the preseason. And so it gets real difficult to make trades in really experienced leagues, I think.
Yeah, you almost want to sell mediocre. It's a strange thing. It's like you want to sell slightly above average, thinking that player will drop off.
Yeah.
Like maybe Paul Gasol was probably a good move for a lot of people this year, where they're like, okay, Paul Gasol started out all right, and you were like, well, he's just all right. I could probably get an all right player for him, and then Paul Gasol played worse. And so you're like, great, I got an all right player. And got rid of Paul Gasol, who was obviously crap. But you didn't get max value for Paul Gasol.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously true. Paul Gasol is an interesting case this year, I think, kind of. So.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the more weirder ones. And I think we did mention we would, in the subreddit, that we would talk about our top 50. I think we'll probably have to save this year's draft average player drafted ranking of top 50. We're going to go through what it was when people drafted this year, and then kind of go through that list and talk about the surprises, the biggest moves, the biggest drops. And Paul Gasol will definitely be on that list, but I think we're going to push that back until the next episode, because we do got a lot of Reddit questions that we want to get to. Some of these are pretty good.
The Reddit community coming through again.
Yeah, we got to pay our dues. This is where I got my start writing fantasy basketball, so got to give full on respect to our fantasy b-ball. We do have one more piece of news. I think we kind of got on a tangent on these questions. Eric Bledsoe out for the season with a sore knee. Amazing.
Real injury or fake injury?
100% fake injury.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
They need to tank. They're shutting it down. They want to give the younger guys a little bit more playing time. Does this help anybody on this team? Maybe TJ Warren?
Yeah, I mean, TJ Warren is going to do TJ Warren things. I think the plan was to kind of play some of these younger players a little bit more. The Tyler Ulises, let Devin Booker be the guy. I think that
Alex Lenny is even getting more playing time, which is amazing.
And Marquise Chris has been looking pretty good for this team. I mean, they're kind of developing it into something interesting. It'll be really interesting to me if they try to move Bledsoe. He's going to be 28 next year, And I think that Phoenix could just try to be getting off of him and kind of going real young and trying to build the young core together. I could see Tyson Chandler moving and just playing out the string there with the young team and trying to get better. It'll be interesting to see what they do this season.
That Tyson Chandler smells like a mid-level exception for the Cleveland Cavaliers next year, doesn't it?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Tyson Chandler reeks of someone who's going to join the Cleveland Cavaliers in February, March.
Dude's been sneaky good this year, though. I mean, not necessarily for
still doing Tyson Chandler stuff.
And I mean, 34 years old, still looking good. So I'm proud of him.
Yeah, I think that will be really interesting. That's a team to watch. Young core there is definitely a team to watch going into next year.
Did you see that he got it too? He is not expected to play again for the rest of the season.
Oh, he's got the knee soreness. It's going around.
Yeah. It just today they announced that that they're not playing him anymore either. So
brilliant. Well, everybody pick up Alan Williams and Marquise Chris if you already haven't. He should be owned, but everybody pick up Alan Williams. Probably take a shot on Alex Len even.
Alan Williams ever going to be a thing again after this year?
Oh man, that's a great question. Yes. It's not like that Suns team is going to dramatically change. Alan Williams is probably still their best center unless they're drafting a center. I don't know what center they would draft. So Alan Williams is probably still their best center unless
you get Mike plays Suns GM, our newest game. Okay.
All right.
You've got to move a big man, and it's Alan Williams or it's Alex Len. Which one are you keeping and which one are you moving off of?
Oh, man. That's a terrible game because they're both mediocre.
Because here's kind of the way I'm looking at
Alex Len is younger. I've seen more from Alex Len.
They're going to keep Bender and Chris, though, right? So they got the power forward minutes relatively taken up by those two.
Yeah.
So unless they're going to make Len and Williams take up all the center minutes, at some point they're going to have to move one of these guys and get like a legitimate something else.
They can always pull a 76ers and wait 2 years too late and give them to Dallas.
For a box of peanuts and nothing else?
For chump change. I would probably try. I mean, who sounds even better? So that's the other thing. Who even sounds good? I'd probably try to move Alex Len because I bet you like half the owners have heard of Alex Len, but like only 3 owners have heard of Alan Williams, and it's like the Warriors and the Spurs.
Yeah,
and the Heat, and that's it.
I think that I'll say that I think they're comparable players in the sense that, I mean, a lot of people rave about Alex Len being so good, and I mean, where's that at this point?
Yeah, if he was really good, you know what he would be doing? He'd be playing 34 minutes a night and destroying people, and he's not. He's not good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And when Brandon Knight, man, talk about a drop off there. What the hell happened to that?
I would love to take Brandon Knight with my last pick next year. If he moves to a team where he's going to get playing time,
I was going to say
to pick him up.
As long as he's not on Phoenix, because I mean, 3 days ago they said he's not playing another game this season, and he was horrendous this year and never really even got minutes.
No, they just threw him away, and I think he was done. He was like, why aren't you moving me if I'm not like starting? I'm a starter. I don't know why we didn't trade Taj Gibson, Doug McDermott, and a second-round pick for Brandon Knight. Wouldn't that have made way more sense? Brandon Knight and Alex Len, bring them over.
Last year for Phoenix, Brandon Knight scored how many points a game? Don't look.
Oh, that was the year he fell off a cliff, I believe, unless I'm confusing this year and last year.
You're confusing this year and last year. 2 years ago, he was in a limited action for Phoenix. He was not very good. Last year for Phoenix, he only played 52 games.
Oh, he actually had a good year last year because I was going to say 12. 17.
19.6.
Ooh.
He went from almost scoring 20 points a game to just basically being told, get out of my house.
That was only last year when him and Bledsoe were like the most exciting thing to watch out of in Phoenix and over.
Yeah, and then when
5 years.
Bledsoe got hurt, him and Booker were tearing it up.
Yeah, he did play well, and Devin Booker like came out and started dropping 30-point games, and everybody's like, "What's going on here?" I need to see some more out of Devin Booker,
but
I need to see him.
I mean,
take a, Andrew Wiggins type leap.
When we talk about bad teams, this is becoming a kind of a real bad like ownership management group. This guy averaged almost 20 points a game. If you decided in your head we're gonna play Eric Bledsoe and Devin Booker and not play Brandon Knight that much, why this offseason did you not move a guy coming off a 19.5 point per game season?
Yeah, when you saw that coming, when you saw Devin Booker on the rise, who was 19 years old, why didn't you say, well, we got to free up a guard spot?
Yeah, I mean,
and then do nothing.
I'm not faulting them for playing Booker the big minutes. I think Booker,
No.
I mean, I saw a stat the other day that you've averaged more than 20 points a game on under age 20. The list is like LeBron James and like future Hall of Famers or Hall of Famers is like the only people who've ever done it.
Yeah, he's got that pedigree, right? I mean, people were calling him Kobe last year. They were like, ooh, he's like a young Kobe. He's got that killer instinct. And he definitely regressed a little, but it's there, right?
Yeah, and playing him 35 minutes a night, I don't mind that. But why did they keep Brandon Knight? I mean, I can't figure out a reason for that.
Because they're gonna. I mean, I don't even know what his contract looks like. I'd have to go look that up. But they're gonna get nothing for Brandon Knight after this year. Nothing.
Yeah, because every team's gonna be like, well, yeah, we'll buy low on Brandon Knight, but we're not giving you anything worth it. You know what?
Not at all. And the time to sell them would have been right after the last season when he played really well.
That's what I mean. Like they missed their sell high fantasy moment right there, and just let it go down the pooper.
And maybe they did shop him, and everybody's like, yeah, we're not going to give you anything for him. And
okay, but now you're going to get literally nothing.
Even less, yeah. Like
that's what I mean. Like if someone was
walk away, like he's just going to walk.
That's what I mean. Like why would you not? If someone was like, I will give you 2 second-round picks and this project of a player. At some point, like
someone was like, we'll give you Joffrey Laverne, campaign. And Anthony Morrow.
Only the Bulls would fall for that.
God. I'm starting to think that was actually a worse trade than the Boogie trade. Like I really think you can make an argument. Not even in the at least Sacramento got out from under the cloud of Boogie and are starting to turn over a new leaf and head in another direction. They're choosing to rebuild. They're choosing a direction. That alone actually makes it better than the Bulls just, digging themselves further in the sand of being a mid-tier nothing team. I actually think it might pan out that it was a better trade. Like Boogie, while great, at least they got something, players that can play in the NBA back for them.
And they got a first-round pick in the sense that they're going to keep theirs.
Yeah.
Which is important. So, I mean, a lot of people think that was like the absolute worst trade ever. And I mean, like you hear those, hyperbole there. It wasn't a great trade. I think they could have got more from someone else, but it wasn't that bad.
I just looked it up. Brandon Knight is under contract until 2020. He gets about a $1 million increase each year. He's making 12 now. He will make 15 in 2020. It's not a bad contract. It's not a great contract. But
does he start next year on the Phoenix Suns?
No.
I don't see any way that he can.
Absolutely.
Especially now that they've kind of decided that Ulis is the backup point.
Yeah.
Like there's no minutes for Brandon Knight now unless Bledsoe's gone. And then are you just going to go from telling Brandon Knight to piss off to starting him?
Yeah, unless you trade Eric Bledsoe and then you're like, hey, Brandon, remember when we sat you for like an entire year and ruined your value? How about you start point guard now?
Yeah, no, that's not happening. So even if they move Bledsoe, I think they're moving Knight too. They just have to. There's no way. There's no way that situation works out.
Something has to be done in the offseason here. This is a great team to watch. for the off season. Let's get to another one of these questions from our friends at Reddit. This one was a good one. This one was ranked, I believe, got the most upvotes. What is your favorite punt strategy for next season?
My favorite punt strategy.
It's probably the same punt strategy used this season, but
so any punt strategy can work, and especially in a head-to-head league. I mean, in Roto, it's super hard to punt, right? I mean, are you with me on that?
I don't think you can. I think you can do it if you know what you're doing, but I would not recommend it.
Yeah,
I've seen people do it and win, but
and especially in shallow leagues. In shallow leagues, getting a 1 in a category is super hard to come back from.
I feel like if you're in a 12-team league, a 1 is a death sentence.
Yeah, and so that's essentially what punting can become. So in Roto, I don't punt anything. Sometimes my team takes shape where I kind of try to build up some other categories and let some other categories go once the season is underway. In the sense that I probably have a big lead already in that category, and so then I start quote unquote punting rebounds because I'm 1,000 ahead.
Yeah, or if you're kind of in a no man's land where you're like, I'm 800 rebounds away from the guy above me, and I'm 700 rebounds away from the guy below me. Well, rebounds are not important to me anymore.
Right. I'm 8. I have 8 rebound points, and I'm not getting 9, and I'm not going down to 7.
Yeah.
But so what strategies do I like to punt? If there's turnovers, I punt turnovers in a head-to-head league. I think
even in a Roto league, I try not to pay attention to turnovers because look at this year with Harden and Westbrook. You can't not own those guys, but they're giving you 5 turnovers a game.
Well, and I mean, guys who get bigger rules and play big minutes get turnovers. If you have the ball in your hand, some of the time you're going to turn it over, right?
Absolutely.
Unless you're Chris Paul.
And that's why Chris Paul is great. And we'll get into that in here in a little bit.
Yeah. And so, I want guys who are going to play minutes, right? Minutes is the king in fantasy. So I never super love to play in leagues with turnovers because I think it takes away some of the value of guys who are amazing players. So as an aside a little bit, the next thing I probably punt is percentage categories, especially in head-to-head. Each week they're kind of fluky anyways, in the sense that everybody has a bad game. So I'm not super concerned about that. I think that all the counting categories are a lot more sticky week to week, that if Devin Booker gets 20 points a game, he gets 20 points pretty much every game. So that's kind of where I'm at. Those are my 3 favorites to punt, probably, as turnovers, field goal percentage, and free throw percentage if we're playing in our standard-ish kind of league.
I think we have the very same philosophy, and we really didn't even talk about this beforehand, but that's kind of exactly the answer I gave is turnovers always, and then percentages. Something I'm going to look into over this offseason because I don't have anything better to do, apparently, is look into punting 3-pointers. So I have an issue where I keep track of all in my keeper league anyway. I keep track of all the stats from that keeper league for the last 6 or 7 years. So I see how the different categories evolve over time, and I do a weighted average. Don't worry about what my life is like when I'm doing my prep for fantasy basketball. But you don't even have to do that to know that 3-pointers are insane right now. And if you don't have an elite 3-point shooter, like a guy who used to make 1.8 2 3-pointers was a great 3-point shooter not that many, just 3 seasons ago. Today, if you're not hitting 3 3-pointers, you're not elite. That has shifted so quickly that I think there actually might be an incentive to avoid to punt 3-pointers. That way you don't have to go after, because there's guys who do a lot of stuff, but they don't hit threes. And that's a lot of big man stats. So you can really kind of pivot towards a big man. So punt free throws, punt 3-pointers. and go with the big man strategy. And I'm going to look into that. I'm going to see if that
One
might be valuable.
One I like to use in leagues where I know the people aren't super good fantasy players, but I think it would work even if they were, is punt points. Points are sexy in the sense that they're the biggest category. And so I think you can sometimes get away with punting points pretty easily if you're going into the draft with that plan.
Yeah, I think if you know what you're doing, I avoid that simply for the reason you stated earlier. Guys with the ball in their hands score. The best players score.
And should we talk about this? Okay. Punting points or punting anything to me doesn't mean I won't pick someone who's good at that category.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If I'm punting points, I'm still picking James Harden if he's falling to me at the right spot.
Yes. It creates values in your draft. So it makes players that you now pick in the 7th round in your punt strategy, he's a 3rd or 4th round value. But I'm not going to not pick a super stud in the 1st round because he scores 20 points a game.
Yeah, and actually, I usually base my punt strategy on my 2nd round pick. So the 1st round everyone's too good in the 1st round to avoid. It's like why avoid Anthony Davis just because you think Rudy Gobert is a better punt strategy? That's a dumb idea. Also, you're wrong, but it's a dumb idea. Or why avoid Kawhi Leonard because he's one of the best 9-cat guys of all in all the leagues, one of the absolute best across the board guys. Because you want to punt something, that guy's still going to help you in 8 other categories.
Right, and so you can't just say, "Oh, I'm not picking you because you're good at the category I want to suck in." I guess is my main point. And that's a strategy I think that some people miss out on punting is I'm not avoiding a category. I'm not putting it into my draft prep to make some values for myself.
Yeah, exactly. I think we got the same strategy when it comes to punting. We'll probably have to do in the off season a head-to-head draft or maybe some punting strategy guides even. That might be a good idea.
So if you punt this player goes from a X round value to now a new X round value. So
yeah, so I'm just going to throw it out there. Hey, everybody, especially if you're listening to this for the first time, thank you for listening. Send us a tweet. You can tweet at me at Watch the Boxes. Tyler's at Watsy4444. If you want to see a certain punt strategy, we'll write them down. And, if you subscribe to this, it will eventually pop up probably in late summer when we are getting around to doing draft prep for next year. But we will save this information if you tweeted us now and want to know a certain punt strategy. We'll work on that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a really easy way for you to not have to work so hard in your draft. So that's a win for you.
Yeah, we're here talking about this stuff anyway. Use this as your super crappy Google for fantasy basketball.
I'm gonna go home.
Or a better Google, because if you Google fantasy basketball online, you get a lot of real turd sites.
I'm gonna go tell my mom that what am I now in life? I am a super crappy Google.
Put that on your resume. So I got a couple quick ones that I want to do, and then my favorite question is right after that. So these are the quick 2. 12-team Dynasty League keeper. Would you keep Buddy Hield or Skal Labissière?
Okay, is it an either or? I was still a little bit confused by this question. Is it an either or is this player worth keeping?
I took it as an or question, but then I also took it as are they worth keeping in a 12-team keeper league just in general?
Well, obviously that depends on how many keepers. Okay. If you keep 3 players in your 12-team league, all right. This is simple math, people. Don't lose sight of it. Okay. the 3 guys you keep have to be top 36 values, right, Mike? Are you with me on this? Like
Yes.
it has to be a top 36 player at some point. So even if you're rebuilding, okay, keeping either one of these players in a keep 3, I would not do it. Neither of these 2 players is ever going to be a top 40 player.
And that's what I was actually thinking. Like, are either of those guys drafted in a 12-team league next year? Maybe at the very end of your draft, but that means you can get them at the very end of your draft.
So that's what I mean. If it's keep 13, like if you're 13 keepers in your 12-team league, I mean, I would keep one or both of the players.
They're draftable.
Yes.
So I guess I would keep them in the sense that if my penalty was I have to get rid of my last round pick, I'd keep my next to last round and last round pick. I guess I would keep. I don't know if I would even keep. I don't know if I would keep both of them. But I'm not sure I'd keep either of them. Which one of these guys do you like as a long-term keeper? Do you like one of them better than the other?
Even if it's keep 5, don't keep them. If it's keep 13, keep them. 10 or more, I would agree. Say. They're maybe top 120 players.
So I don't think I'm doing, even if I'm keeping 10 players, I bet you I can keep 10 better players.
So do I like one of these players better than the other? I like Scal's kind of long-term prospects of maybe growing into a kind of cool stretch 4 player. I think he could actually end up being kind of a steal of this draft, in the sense that the draft class that he was in, there's not a lot of real good players, and I think he could be okay. But I'm not excited to keep either one of these players for fantasy. I mean,
no, I'd have to be in a bigger.
Now if it's
I'd have to be in a bigger league.
If it's a 20-team league, I mean, maybe now we're talking.
I think I would keep Scal over Buddy Hield. I don't know how Buddy turns into anything but a poor man's Eric Gordon.
Buddy is not going to give you any of our favorite categories, Mike.
Exactly.
There's nothing there. So
he's not a block guy. He's not really a steal guy.
And he's not really an assist guy or a rebound guy.
It's what you want from all your guards, not just your shooting guard.
So Buddy is a points and 3-pointers and free throw percentage guy. I don't ever think he's really even going to shoot a good field goal percentage. So, I mean, he's a 3-category guy. So, at the end of your draft, if you need a specialist, like I'm light on 3-pointers and points, then maybe Buddy's your man. But, I mean, I don't ever see Buddy being more than like – Buddy at his best season is probably like barely a top 100 player, if that.
Yeah, he's like Aaron Aflalo, which is like the most insulting thing I've ever said to anyone.
So the short answer, if we're recapping here, is don't keep either one of them in a 12-team league.
But if you have to, and you must choose Scal over Buddy.
He did say dynasty though, so
it's a dynasty league, so it's a long-term league.
Well, and usually there's like the roster's bigger, right? There's like 20 or 25 people, and you can keep anyone, and then any spots you give back just kind of go back into you get the draft next year. So I'm probably, I mean, if it's keep 20 in a 12-team league or 25.
It would depend on who's coming around in my draft, right? Like, and what picks I have and everything. All these questions are always like, it depends. And I'm not excited about Buddy Hield as a long-term prospect. Scal does have a higher ceiling that I could be interested in, given the right circumstances. And guess what? Sacramento's a shit team. So those are kind of the right circumstances. He already did have a 30-point game, a 32-point game. So there's something.
Someone in your league is into these 2 guys. Give them away, man. Give them to him for something. Get something absolutely. That's actually keeper material. That's my.
So that question was 2K from 2K Pedro. That's a great name. Thank you, 2K Pedro. That is a great, awesome
great Reddit name. I'm jealous of that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. This question is from French Bolcho, which is I don't even know what that is. This is another quick one. I feel. Where would you draft Lonzo Ball? His dad will draft him in the first round.
Where would I draft? Assuming this is a redraft league, correct? I mean,
the assumption was redraft league, and he is drafted by the Lakers, who will obviously play him a lot.
Double-digit round. as a rookie. So
Yeah,
it's round.
I'm not going to
round-
argue with you on that one. I said if you wanted to reach maybe the ninth round, at that's the highest I think I would reach for him. If you look at this statistically, if you go back and look at rookies entering the league, there's a huge outlier. Cat Daddy, Kristaps, and Embiid as rookies have overperformed almost every rookie for like the last decade, other than maybe LeBron, I guess. Even KD was like barely a top 100 player when he came in the league.
Well, and I mean,
Rookies never perform well.
even look at a lot of guys who end up being Hall of Famers. I mean, how much did Kobe play as a rookie?
Exactly.
Did Tim Duncan play as a rookie?
But also, what's the difference between these? What's the similarity between these outliers? They're all big men who shoot threes and do everything. All three of the Cat Daddy, Kristaps, and Embiid. They're all bigs. Lonzo Ball's not a big. He doesn't do anything excessively amazing.
Can we agree that Alonzo Ball is not going to be the number one pick?
Absolutely. He's not going to be the number one pick. Maybe a second.
Okay.
Maybe
Didn't the Lakers just have a number 2 pick point guard not that long ago who was a rookie?
Yeah.
How well did that work out if you
Is
drafted
he-
him in your 9th
Yeah,
round?
how's he doing? I actually went back and looked at a post I made at the beginning of the year, and someone asked about D'Angelo Russell, and I said I don't like D'Angelo Russell. I was very proud of myself, but I said he is looking better, and he's out from under the horrible coaching and out of the shadow of Kobe, and he'll probably be better. But anyone who thinks he's going to be an all-star is smoking something. And somebody, I don't remember who, was like, "Oh, come on, he's definitely going to be an all-star." I was like, "You obviously are an LA Lakers fan. Good luck in your league." Yeah, he was not going to. There's too much hype around these rookies when they take years to pan out.
I'll also say this about Ball. Okay. I'm going to read you Ball's stat line from UCLA this year. Okay. Let's pretend UCLA is a NBA team. Okay. I'm going to read you the stat line and you tell me it's a top what player, relatively speaking. Okay. He made 2.3 3-pointers per game.
That's pretty good.
Okay. He had 6 rebounds,
That's pretty good.
7.6 assists,
That's pretty good.
1.9 steals,
Okay.
0.7 blocks, 14.7 points. Now, this is crazy. As a guard, he shot 55.6% from the field and 67% from the free throw line.
That's a bad.
Yeah, that's a negative right there.
He's almost shooting better than he's shooting free throws.
And that's always a little worrisome to me in the sense that if you shoot free throws that bad, your field goal percentage in the NBA could be ugly, especially in your first year.
Well,
Could be
there
real
is
ugly.
a lot of people who know way more than I do who talk about his release and how slow it is and how he like lifts it up out of his chest. And do you think Kawhi Leonard will let Lonzo Ball take that long to release his shot?
No.
Do you think Tony Snell will let Lonzo Ball take that long to release his shot?
No.
He won't. Tony Snell will guard the shit out of Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball has an interesting stat line for sure.
But
Um,
but I could read you Denzel Valentine's stat line from Michigan
yeah,
State last year.
exactly. And it's just
And-
as good.
I think it looked a little bit like that. And are you owning Denzel Valentine in your leagues? Because I'm not.
Absolutely not.
So my point being, this guy, I mean, don't go crazy for him. If you're in a dynasty league and you have one of those rookie drafts and he's the 2nd overall pick and you want to pick him 2nd overall in your dynasty draft, if you want to pick him 1st overall because you think he's the best player in this draft long term, all the power to you, buddy. But
Yeah,
if
go
it's a
right ahead.
redraft league, I'm staying away until it's like the 10th round.
Yeah, in a redraft league, I don't even know. I mean, yeah. I'm not even
'Cause
sure I would be interested in them. I do stay away from rookies for the most part.
Well, but
but
can we talk about this? And that once it gets
Yeah.
to be the 10th round in a 13 pick league,
you can do whatever you want.
you're basically gonna shuffle through those players anyways.
Those guys should be guys you drop. at
Right.
some point in the league. At some point during the year, you should drop all those guys unless they're obviously a breakout candidate. But you should be dropping your bottom 3 players.
And I mean, look at Brandon Ingram this year, and he was a top 3 pick. I mean, he might have been ownable for the last week or two, but other than that, he's been pretty bad.
Oh,
So
yeah.
don't. I personally never draft the rookie in a redraft league, and I will pick them up off the waiver wire when I see they're starting to get minutes, and someone else has been like, "This guy's killing me."
How many people picked up Kristaps off the waiver wire? A ton.
And I mean, that's how you win. Is you don't pick them in the draft. Get them when there's no value to them.
Yeah, get them when they have a terrible beginning to their rookie season because they're rookies.
Yeah, I'm with you. There.
Quick question: Dynasty League. Would you rather keep Buddy, Scal, or Lonzo Ball?
Give me the devil I don't know.
Exactly. I'd definitely go Lonzo Ball. Let's see. This was my favorite question of all the questions. Not the Lonzo Ball one because who cares about Lonzo Ball? Sorry. Whoever asked that question. This was from Bernon, which is also a good name. This was definitely my favorite question. With all these random DNPs, especially those occurring in the second half of the fantasy season and during the fantasy playoffs, would you say that we should start considering this into our drafts? And I'll go one further. Should you consider it in the way you approach the end of your season, or even the way you set up your playoffs in your league?
You want to take this one first? Because I think I'm going to take it in a direction you're not going to be super into.
Okay,
So go ahead.
This is the direction I took it, and I actually have been thinking about it. I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks now
I've been
because
thinking about it too, so that's good.
Yeah, we have fantasy basketball addiction, and we have problems. And this is what we think about during our regular day lives. There has been an excessive amount of DMPs. This is not new, but it is to a greater extent than it was last year.
It's up. It's definitely up.
100% up, and it's been coming up for the last 4 years. Popovich kind of revolutionizing everyone realizing they shouldn't play 82 games.
Yeah, it was 2013, 2014 when he really started the heavy you're not playing, right? And then other teams caught on, and then it's kind of been a thing ever since then, and it's kind of just growing and growing.
Yeah, it carried over to the Warriors, and the Warriors sitting on a lot of fourth quarters and blah blah blah. I actually in Roto leagues, I'm actually taking this into account right now. I'm starting to just gang up on starts and do all my starts right now because those last couple weeks of the season, who knows who's actually going to be playing during those? Because you'll have everyone who's sitting in a good playoff spot, and there's a couple of playoff races, so those will be interesting and people will play. But anyone who's sitting in a nice playoff spot, they'll be resting their players. Anyone who's tanking, they'll be resting or who knows doing what with their players. And you could end up with people you've never even heard of on your team because they're the only people playing in those last few games. So I'm starting in my Roto leagues. I'm starting to get my starts way ahead of my limits. But when it comes to should I take this account to my drafts? No. I don't know why you would take this account into your draft, and I assume that's because of the fantasy playoffs. I don't think of the playoffs until I'm about to make the playoffs.
Well, and
about halfway through the season is when I start thinking about the playoffs.
And we don't always know who's going to be the good teams and who's going to be the bad teams. I mean, we have a relative idea of who's a good team, but do we always know? Like, look, for example, Portland last year. I mean, what seed were they in the playoffs? Pretty high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And now they're
kind of a bad team this year. And so I think that happens every year. So I definitely don't look at this at my draft table. 100% no.
But I do think this isn't just a fluke. This is definitely a trend. And as long as LeBron is owning the East and the Warriors and Spurs own the West, there's always going to be a huge incentive to tank. So there's always going to be tanking teams. And I think we're seeing an amazing, almost beautiful, artful display of tanking across the league, especially Sacramento. Look at the Lakers and Philly. They're doing a great job of tanking too. I think you're seeing such an amazing tanking job going across because this draft is so deep and so important. And there's a lot of really great talent in it. Next year, that talent pool might not be so big. You're still going to have your tankers, maybe not as many, but you're still going to have your tankers. You're still going to have your players resting for the playoffs. You're still going to have your best teams resting players. So I do think this is a long-term trend that you should take into account when you think about starting, when you think about trading before the playoffs, so when you think about roto leagues. But which, by the way, if you're worried about your playoffs, just start playing roto leagues because they're better. And we don't have to get into that. But do you move your playoffs up? I don't know where that ends, right? Do you move them up a week? Do you move them up 2 weeks? Do you move them 3 weeks? When does the regular season, does it matter? That's why I say play roto. But
and I like that answer. I liked when you gave it on the Reddit, and I like it now. My answer to the question is this: why do you do this? Like I play the fantasy basketball because I think it's fun. I don't play because I think I'm the greatest person in the world at it. I don't play because
I lose more leagues than I win.
I don't
every
play,
year.
I don't play to try to make $1 million. You know, if I was doing that, I'd play DFS and try to make a bunch of money. But I play because I think I know some stuff about it. I think I know how to play. I want to have some fun. I want to rouse my buddies that I beat them in the league. And so to me, it doesn't really matter when the playoffs end. I mean, I play in leagues that play the entire season, right? And I know I'm crazy, right? I have a problem. But to me, sometimes that's fun is, oh my God, who's going to play for Brooklyn now that they've set out Brook Lopez and any other player who can play? And who could get me 20 points tonight?
Exactly. That is interesting. To me, that is interesting. The grind of the end of the season to be like, oh crap, I need like 20 blocks in my roto league. Let's scrounge around looking for dudes who are going to give me blocks. When Alan Williams wins you your league, you're pretty happy about it. And this does come directly from leagues that pay attention the entire year. And you gotta, if you don't have that, then you're not really truly playing fantasy basketball. If half your league isn't paying attention right now, and you're either in a roto league or some of the playoff teams aren't paying attention right now, you're not really truly playing fantasy basketball, in my opinion. You got to find those dedicated leagues, those dedicated people. And I always preach roto, but whatever's fun to you, if you like a 22 category dynasty league because there is something actually wrong with you, more power to you. Right on.
And here's the second part about it. Okay, just like in the real NBA, just like in any sport, does the best team win the championship every year?
No, because the Cavs won last year, and
the whole purpose of putting playoffs in my opinion, in any sport is to not allow the best team to win. There's some flukiness to playoffs. Okay? Like if we wanted just the best team over the 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, however long our season is, it would just all be regular season games. And we'd go, well, you kicked butt all season long. You're the best team. Just like they used to do in NASCAR. When then what they start doing in NASCAR, if you follow NASCAR, they put in a playoff because they want there to be drama at the end.
People love the drama. I get it. I understand why people like that.
And
now
so,
I find plenty of drama in Roto because I've seen at least 3 leagues be decided in just the last year or two on the very last day. A missed free throw decided a league like 2 years ago for one of my friends. It was, to me, that's entertaining.
Well, and Mike and I have talked about this in the past. Like, especially in Roto, you've got to get a good group of people.
That's the only way Roto really works.
I played in a Roto league 2 years ago, not this year, but last year, and like by the April, there was no fun because I was so far ahead, and like no one could even catch me.
Yeah, and that's why I understand when people play head to head because it keeps people interested.
Right.
That's the most important factor, keeping people interested.
But I guess my point in saying is it's supposed to be fun. Like, don't take it too seriously. I like to play the whole season because that's what the people play, and I'm just into playing, man. I think it's fun. If you want to end your playoffs a week early because you think that's fun and you think then the best team should win out, good on you. If you want to end it 2 weeks early, 3 weeks early, I'm fine with all that. It's all on what you think is fun and what your league mates are gonna stick to.
Yeah, do whatever. But in the end of the day, play Roto. So I think we could save our top 10 for maybe next time, because we can kind of put that into the top 50 for from this year, and then see how that compares to our top 10 for next year.
And I haven't asked Mike about this, but I'm sure he'll be into it. I want to add with our review of the top 50. I'm going to add in a question of a few sneaky who's going to be top 50 that don't look like they're going to be top 50 players for next year.
Yeah, and I think that is a couple of the questions. The guy who, I think this is like the first guy who asked a question. He was like, "Who are your top 10 players? Who's going to be better? Who's going to be worse?" I was like, "Geez, man, right to the point, man. You really want to know the nuts and bolts of what you need to know about next year." So fair, good enough.
And I mean, we'll couch this next time too, but it's worth saying that it's still a long way out from the season. If LeBron goes to the Sacramento Kings, things are going to change.
Man, that would be great. That would be great, because he would lose. Because that's a terrible, terrible team. Yeah, this is all. You really can't make a. I start making my official listings in preseason. The stuff that I'm going to use in a draft that happens in preseason. Like, I have an idea before that, but it becomes solid come preseason. And I don't actually put a lot of stock into preseason, but it helps me get a feel for a lot of the unknown guys. Like, KD's going to be great. Who cares about KD? Whatever. That's not what you should be interested in. And actually, the top 10 really, you should be interested in like the 30 through 70 range.
Right.
That's really the more interesting, and probably where a lot of leagues are won.
And I'll say this too. I start making my projections as soon as the big wave of free agency gets over. So I start working on my projections then, and then what's most valuable during that preseason time is you see like, oh, well, this team signed this guy, but they don't really seem that into playing in big minutes. So I had him marked down for 25 minutes a night, but I think he's only going to get 15. And that makes a big difference in your fantasy value, especially in a deep league. I mean, in a standard league, like, are you owning anyone who even plays 20 minutes a game? Probably not.
No. So. And I don't. Some people find that really fun to own the guys who have played 10 minutes a game, and I don't. I like to play in shallower leagues. But like we said, more power to you. However you want to play this fine game, feel free. And I think we got a lot of the hardcore guys giving us questions. So props to everybody who really plays fantasy basketball over on our fantasy b-ball.
Yeah, and I'll say this to end it. What you really want to find is a group of people who want to play. That's what makes it fun, right? I mean, like, no matter what the settings are, or how deep or shallow the league is, what makes it fun is finding a group of people that want to play, are going to pay attention, and are going to actually play.
Yep.
I mean, any settings can be fun if everyone's invested in the league.
Exactly. Like, figuring out your best combination to a winning team is really half the fun. So if it's a weird points league, if it's a 23 cat league, the fun part is figuring out how you're going to win.
Right.
But you have to be playing against somebody, and you have to find a league that's interested until the final day of the season.
And it can't just be one or two guys. I mean, I've been in leagues like that. No. Like 3 guys play and the other 9 maybe set the roster.
You should be able to find 10 guys on the internet. It's 2017, everybody. I'm sure you can find 10 guys who are into fantasy basketball.
And if you can't, tweet Mike, and he'll find you the 10 guys.
Yeah,
he'll be turning over bar stools, just looking for them anywhere he can find them.
Yeah, tweet me at Watch the Boxes, all one word. And what's your Twitter again, Tyler?
At Watsy4444. So my last name with a Y, 4 number 4s.
4 number 4s. Just making it complicated. So yeah, if you're joining us for the first time, thank you for downloading the podcast. I hope you subscribed. I hope you liked it. If you're coming from Reddit, thank you very much for the questions. That was very cool of everybody to do. If you're a long-time listener or a first-time listener, go ahead. If you like what you heard, give us a review on Apple iTunes or whatever podcast app you're listening to this on right now. Leave us a review. Give us some feedback. It really helps other people find the podcast. And if you know someone who's really into fantasy basketball enough to think about whether the resting of players at the end of the year is affecting the game of fantasy basketball because they're that much of a lunatic, they should probably be listening to this podcast. So tell them about this podcast and let them know that we are also weirdly into the hypotheticals when it comes to DNPs, because that's our lives. So yeah, I don't have anything else. You have anything to plug, Tyler?
No, I did read your Bulls article though. That was very well written, very good. So go over to #basketball and check out Mike's article on the Bulls.
Yep, it's about how big of a dumpster fire they are, and I think I underrated how big that fire is. I think they are actually much bigger than I put down there. I have to revise that later in the year.
I'm with you there.
All right, well, that is it. Get feedback to us on Twitter if you have questions about your league. Also, hit us up on Twitter. Thank you for joining me, Tyler, and thank you for joining me, everybody listening. Cheers. Have a good night.